Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Okay, this is getting fun now. This is getting fun. Ladies and gentlemen, great to have you with us. Rush Limbaugh, the EIB network, and here we are at Hump Day. You work, if you work, and then if you work a traditional 5-day week, this is the Hump Day. Get over this day, 2 down, 3 down, 2 to go. 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. The email address, lrushbo@eibnet.us. I'm going to get to the transition team stuff in just a second. We've got some lighthearted stuff. Well, some of it's not so lighthearted, but it's still all hilarious. And I want to get to this stuff first to make sure I get to it, because if I put it off, I may end up not getting to it. But I do want to say one thing about this transition team business. In the first place, have you heard? I told Snerdley he had not heard. Have you heard that Ted Cruz met with Trump for a full hour? Ted Cruz was at Trump Tower for 5 hours, meeting with various people, a full hour with Donald Trump. And the word is he's being seriously considered for Attorney General, not the Supreme Court. I can't think of anybody better to head over to the Department of Justice and drain that swamp than Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz could get that done in the first 100 days, the honeymoon period. I think that would just be terrific. Ted Cruz as Attorney General would please everybody. Mitch McConnell would be ecstatic over in the Senate. What wouldn't please the left? I mean, Harry Reid and these guys, even though Reid is leaving, they would have a conniption which would be worth the price of admission. Just the greater conniption the left has, the better the decision is. And that's what everybody needs to come to realize. The bigger conniption fit the media has or the left, the better the decision. This Trump transition team is not imploding, folks. It is getting set to kick ass. What the media is trying to tell you, apparently there was some movement. Trump decided to get rid of some people, the Chris Christie team, apparently, on the process of putting together a national security team, and Mike Rogers was part of this. And Christie made a mistake. He went out and he was recruiting some lobbyists. Trump has made it plain and been very clear about it that there aren't going to be any lobbyists. He's not going to have the traditional Washington trappings to his administration. The way people need to look at this is that Trump is able to make bold decisions at the moment he thinks necessary. He doesn't languish over them. He doesn't wring his hands. He makes up his mind and makes the move. You know, Kellyanne Conway was his third campaign manager. He kept going until he got it right. The Trump transition team is not imploding. You would think the media would learn, but they're not going to. What do you think the media thinks it's in for? What wrong way to put it. What do you think the media thinks they have to gain by continuing to treat Trump the way they did during the campaign? What in the world are they doing? What are they thinking? What do they expect to change? Have they not come to grips with the fact that the more they rip into Trump, the more his support solidifies? And I dare say the more his support expands. 70% of the people in this country think two things. 70% think the country's headed in the wrong direction, and 70% think they cannot trust the mainstream media. The media continues to behave in ways that warrant that distrust, that earn it. So they're trying to make hay out of the fact that Trump doesn't know what he's doing. He's got this transition team, and it's out of control. He's already fired people. Nope, he found out the people were doing things he didn't want done, and he moved them out. And he's replacing them. What's imploding is the media. The media is imploding. What's imploding is Obamacare. What's imploding is the Democrat Party. What is imploding is Clinton, Inc. That's what's imploding out there. Trump won in part because of the media's hysterical deceit. Their hysterical partisanship, their hysterical abandonment of what they claim are their own definitions of their job. The media is a front group for Democrats, like environmentalists are a front group for radical leftists. And the reason Trump won is because he's fighting what is constantly destructive. Donald Trump is fighting and taking on people who are constantly and purposely destructive. And so I think what you need to realize here is that everything is humming along. This is show you how the media gets things wrong. Sad to say, Fox News has been reporting for the last hour and a half that Trump snuck out of the White House again, this time showed up at his transition office in Washington. They're already ticked off that Trump went to dinner last night. Have you heard about this? Trump ditched the media and went to dinner. He went to 21. He had dinner with his family. Media outraged. How dare he leave without telling us? How dare he leave without taking us? And so the AP, you know how the AP wrote about this today? We were there when JFK was assassinated. We were there when Ronald Reagan was shot. Meaning we want to be there if something happens to Trump. This is our job to chronicle when something bad happens to Trump. And they're livid that Trump's, and he didn't sneak out. He just didn't tell them he was going anywhere. Took his family, went to 21, didn't hide. There are people in there taking pictures. It's a new day, folks. It's a new day where everybody in the administration doesn't first take into account what the media is going to say or do before they do or say anything. Trump is going to be who he is. He's not going to be talked out of it or influenced off of it. He's going to be who he is. He's going to continue to try to live as normal a life as he can. I've heard that he doesn't even want to spend full time in the White House. He wants to go back and forth between Trump Tower, the White House, and Mar-a-Lago. Speaking of which, that could be a problem for us. You know, they close the airport when he's here. That happened to me. I went to George H.W. Bush's 80th birthday in Houston. That's where I met Mikhail Gorbachev. You ought to see the pictures from that night, by the way. Gorbachev's birthmark ended up on my forehead. We documented it with photos. You can see at rushlimbaugh.com. I'm sure now that Coco will go get them. And when there are two stages to the party. The party was held at what was the Minute Maid Park or whatever. It was the baseball stadium, whatever it was called then. And there were two stages, one indoors, like in the Stadium Club area, and then they went out to the field for the second part of the celebration. And when they made that move, I decided to leave because I was flying back home, and I flew into Houston for the bash, and then I left the bash early to get back home, and I got to the airport, and I found out I couldn't leave. I said, why not? Well, because Air Force One is here. George W. Bush was at the 80th birthday party for his dad, and that's when I learned that when Air Force One's parked at your airport, it's shut down. So when Trump comes here, if he uses Palm Beach International Airport, we are shut down. You can't land, you can't take off. I wonder if I could get special dispensation as a powerful, influential media and supporter. Probably not. That's why Air Force One goes to Air Force bases wherever it can, whenever it can, when the president travels. But the nearest Air Force base here is MacDill over in Tampa. And I don't think that's going to be the case. They're not going to land in Tampa, then motorcade over here. And they don't move Air Force One once it lands, and there's nowhere to put it anyway. So it might be that if we hear Trump's coming, we got to leave. We have to get out of here. I mean, if we're going to have to get out at a point in time while he's here, and if this is the winter White House, he's going to be here for a couple of weeks. Every plane's grounded. The airport is effectively shut down. Well, if Air Force One is leaving, but while it's pretty now, I could be wrong about. I know what in Houston we had to stay till Bush left, so my leaving that party early didn't matter. I had to sit on my airplane for 3 hours until President Bush decided to leave. It was at George Bush International Houston Intercontinental Airport. No, it might have been at Hobby. I might have gone into Hobby and they shut it. Wherever it was, I don't remember, but I just sat on the airplane. So it was pointless to leave early. That's just a little aside. But Trump is going to try to live as normal a life as he can. And I want to assure everybody that this transition is not imploding. It is going smooth as a hot knife through butter. Oh, I was going to say, Fox News reported that Trump had snuck out of Trump Tower and gone to Washington. He didn't. He's still at Trump Tower. Kellyanne Conway sent out a little blast saying, I'm sorry, media gets it wrong again. Trump is not in Washington. Pence is. And they have a transition team there, but Trump has not left Trump Tower like he did last night to go to dinner. Just fit to be tied. Little Brian Stelter at CNN, all these people just fit to be tied. Speaking of which, you know, back on January 16th, 2009, when I said, in response to the Wall Street Journal asking me for 400 words on my hopes and dreams for the Obama regime, said, don't need 400, I can do it in 4. I hope he fails. There was a cacophony of outrage that went on for all 8 years. And it's still, folks, it is still reverberating. Washington Post, Sotomayor, country cannot afford for president to fail, but people must continue to be heard. Supreme Court Justicette Sonia Sotomayor, the wise Latina, says the country cannot afford for the president to fail. Why is it even on her mind? Me. That's why it's on her mind. And then to the New York Times and Thomas Loopy Friedman, who thinks we need to be like China if we're ever going to fix our country. And he is obsessed with climate change, and therefore he is begging Trump to help heal the planet's climate change. Oh, Stephen Hawking. Are you ready for this? Stephen Hawking, said to be the smartest man on Earth. It's a toss-up between who's smarter, Hawking or Hillary Clinton. Stephen Hawking says we only have 1,000 years. If we don't find another planet or an asteroid to colonize, that's it for the human race. And largely because of climate change. 1,000 years. Where are you going to book your ticket? Is Elon Musk, are they going to give him some drug that keeps him alive forever? He'd be, by the way, subsidized with a tune of $55 billion zillion by then. Do you know how much money he's been subsidized? $5 billion in federal and state subsidies Elon Musk has for Tesla, SpaceX, and this solar company of his. $5 billion. There's profit? There's no profit when you have been given $5 billion and there's still no. Anyway, Thomas, 1,000 years. We only have 1,000 years left on Earth, according to Stephen Hawking, or we're all toast. I have a tip. We're all toast within 1,000 years, folks. Whether we leave the planet or not, the odds are if you choose to leave the planet, you're going to be toast long before the rest of us who don't leave the planet will be toast. If you leave the planet seeking refuge on another planet, you are guaranteed to be toast, say, before I am. But the problem is that Hawking says it. He's got this reputation for brilliance, scientific extraordinaire, and so forth. It's all these young little millennials. See, it's just another bit of evidence for them that progress is destroying the planet. Anyway, Thomas Friedman. However, I'm not going to spend every day, Mr. Trump, hoping you fail. Too much is at stake. So Sonia Sotomayor, Thomas Loopy Friedman, all addressing the concept of Trump failure. Who put this on the table? It was I, your beloved host, almost 8 years ago. Bill Press, a failed talk show host and a failed Democrat National Committee honcho, was on TV somewhere, a failed TV network, and he said he hopes Trump does fail. And this is the problem with Bill. He's never been original. But he's out there saying he hopes Trump fails. Okay, now to the lighthearted. Well, this first is not lighthearted, but this whole stack would come under the category of lighthearted or humorous or unbelievable. All of it, except the first story, is just fun. Washington Post, video shows mother kicking her young son out over mock election vote. A Texas mother is under investigation for a video that shows her forcing her young son to leave home because he voted for Trump in a mock election at his elementary school. The shocking cell phone video shows the mother shooing the sobbing boy out the front door with a suitcase that she told him she had packed for him. Since you voted for Donald Trump, you can get your and get out, she says in the video. The suitcase is packed by the door. It's been packed since this morning. Bye. The Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office outside Houston called the video disturbing and disgusting and said in a statement that it was investigating to determine whether the mother could face criminal charges. The woman has not been publicly identified. She told detectives the video was meant to be a joke. Right, a packed suitcase was meant to be a joke. These young snowflakes and innocent flower children that we have out there, there are no jokes, folks. Everything's deadly serious to them. The Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office does not see this as a joke, and we are taking the matter seriously, said the statement from the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office. Fort Bend County Sheriff Troy Neal said, "My heart breaks for what this poor child endured." In the video, the mother is seen handing her son a sign that says, "My mom kicked me out because I voted for Donald Trump." She then tells him he'll have to hold the sign up outside so that passers-by will know why he was kicked out of his house. The boy begins to cry and slumps down to the floor. The mother shouts, "Take your sign, get up." Reluctantly, the boy stands and then walks down the hallway. "You want to vote for him," his mother says, opening the door. Okay, the young boy concedes. "Get your suitcase," the mother tells him. "No," he cries. "Get your suitcase and get out. Bye. Go. We don't do Donald Trump here." Later, the boy is actually seen walking to the curb as his mother shouts, "Bye, Donald Trump lover." The boy says, "But I've got school tomorrow." "You got school tomorrow?" she says. "You should have thought about that. Bye. This is where you're going to be at from now on." "No," he cries. "Yes," she shouts. When his mother asks why he voted for Trump during the mock election, we're talking an elementary school kid here. The boy says he's seen the Republican businessman a lot on TV. She said, "Well, I hope you find another TV to see him on because this is going to be your new home. You can't come back here. Bye." Another boy in the video starts to cry. "My brother!" "You can go be with Donald Trump lover," the mother says to the second child. And so it goes. By the way, this video of the mother kicking her son out of the house with a packed suitcase is 4 days old. It was not interesting enough to the drive-by media to report it nationally. Everything appears to be okay now. The local authorities say the mother was joking and the kid's okay, and they don't think there's anything criminal here. No evidence of any criminal wrongdoing. One detective said he met with the family. Boy appears to be in good shape. The detective also said the mother has apologized for the video. Can you imagine if this had happened in 2008 or 2012 after Obama had been elected and some mother kicked the kid out of the house because he voted for Obama in a mock election? You imagine it would have not taken 4 days for this to have been discovered by the drive-by media. Anyway, it's not fair. Liberals say stop congratulating engaged couples. It stigmatizes women who have not found a mate. Not making it up. That's the next story in the stack of fun stuff, and it's coming right up, along with all the rest of today's exciting excursion into broadcast excellence. Not making this up, a fashionable liberal cultural dictum states now that congratulating a newly engaged couple should be avoided because it draws attention to the failure of others to snag a spouse. Ashley Mateo, writing at Redbook. Does anybody still read Redbook? I guess they do. Ashley Mateo, writing at Redbook, says, "I absolutely hate wishing people congratulations on their engagement, and I won't do it anymore. The word congratulations is associated with an achievement, not a grown-up decision made between two people who've discussed their relationship and decided that, hey, they're clearly better together than not, so why not make it official? There's no achievement here. There's a mutual decision. There's no reason to congratulate anybody." And then this, Landing a husband is not something you achieve, says Ashley Mateo at Redbook. What's more, if you consider getting engaged an achievement, then clearly you view not being engaged as a failure of sorts. For the sake of this argument, she said, that you're the marital equivalent of someone sleeping in their parents' basement at 30. It implies failure on the part of the unengaged, and that is uncool. So you can't, if you're going to be proper liberal, you cannot congratulate anybody anymore when they get engaged, because to do so humiliates those who can't land a husband. Now, what kind of person do you have to be to see the world this way? You know, there's a lot of stupid out there. This guy, CEO of some tech company who threatened and signed it to assassinate Trump, has been canned. You have to be a special kind of stupid to engage in some of the things our buddies, the Democrats and leftists, are engaging in today. So maybe if you're too stupid to understand the definition of congratulations, if you're too stupid to understand an expression of joy or happiness in the success and good fortune of another, that's what congratulations is about. Somebody's made a decision here. They're very happy about it. You congratulate them on that. If you are unable to acknowledge the joy or happiness or good fortune of another person, if your soul is so absent and you want to remove every bit of joy and romance from couples' relationships, or if you want to remove every bit of joy from life as you can because it's not fair, then have at it. Stop congratulating anybody anytime they have any success, because it's not fair. Not everybody succeeds, and it stigmatizes those who don't. This is the kind of thinking that has just been sent packing. And the stack continues. Washington Times headline, ready for this? Barbara Streisand urges Obama to bypass the Senate and appoint Supreme Court justices unilaterally. There's been no word so far from Barbara Streisand on whether she'll make good on her pledge to leave the country. They're not going to leave. None of these leftists that promised to leave are going to leave. But she does want President Obama to bypass the Senate and appoint a Supreme Court justice before leaving office. Ms. Streisand is championing a White House We the People petition calling on Obama to appoint Merrick Garland without the confirmation of the Senate. Barbara Streisand took to Facebook, says, if you are concerned about the Supreme Court, please consider going to this website and signing a petition asking Obama to appoint Merrick Garland. According to the Washington Post, he has the power to do this since Congress has refused to vote, and apparently that can be considered a waiver of its rights to advise and consent, she said. Her Washington Post citation referred to an April 8th op-ed by Gregory Discant, a national board member of Common Cause, who argued that the Senate would have waived its right to confirm a justice if it failed to do so in a reasonable amount of time. There's no constitutional backup for this. It's just the wild rantings of an unhinged leftist. And, of course, Barbara Streisand, totally ignorant when it comes to matters of the Constitution and human freedom and liberty and all this. Yeah, Obama, go ahead, bypass the Senate and just, appoint a Supreme Court justice. Let me tell you what is going to happen. I will make a rather bold prediction to you that it won't be long before we start hearing leftists say, you know what? We don't need a ninth justice on the court. We've been doing fine here. The Senate didn't vote to confirm Merrick Garland. We've been having cases with 8 justices, and that's just fine. And there'll be now, the number of justices on the court is up to Congress, ladies and gentlemen. The founders gave Congress the power to shape the federal courts, to name the districts, for example, how many there are, and where they are. And they also have the power to determine how many justices. We haven't always had 9 justices on the court. And as you've seen, the court functions just fine with 8. I mean, you end up with some ties. That means the case goes back to the last court that heard the case. Because of that, I won't be surprised if a bunch of Democrats starts, you know what, we don't need a ninth justice. Let's just leave the court the way it is. I suspect they will pull out all the stops, everything they can think of, and even things we can't imagine they would do in order to make sure they do not lose the balance of power too greatly here. But I have another story. I actually have two stories today on the depths of the Democrat defeat in this election and what it means. And I told you yesterday I'm going to keep harping on this because it's profound and it's crucial and it's important. The amount of electoral power the Democrats have lost, particularly at the state and local level, is astounding. It is so great, folks, the depths of defeat, the great numbers of seats they have lost means that conservative grassroots could end up controlling the census in 2020. They could control politics at the local level for a generation because the Democrats simply don't have the votes to stop a number of things. They only control both legislature and governors in 5 states now out of 50. This is as each day goes by, and as I dig deeper into it, the depth of the Democrat loss, which has been cumulative. It all didn't happen on Tuesday last week. It has been cumulative starting actually 2010 in the most recent time frame. You could even predate it to that if you wanted to. But they are in a world of hurt, particularly at the state level, and that means at the local level, and that means at the grassroots level. It is an opportunity for conservatives to be ascendant and in power for a time period longer than any conservative ever dreamed. It is stunning when you get into it. And I will do so in great detail as the program appears in the next, later today maybe, and in future programs, because this is a seminal moment. This overwhelming defeat. It's even, to me, and I have studied it each and every day, the depths to which the Democrat Party has sunk surprises and shocks even me. Now, it won't mean anything if we don't do anything about it and with it. But there is a way to cement this power for a long time at the state and local level. And that is huge. This is how. Cementing this power at the state and local level is how we can overcome the vast majorities they have in these cities. As I said yesterday, the Democrat Party coalition has now been outnumbered. The Democrats threw away their allegiance to white working-class voters. They basically discarded everybody who's white that doesn't have a college education. Well, that is a huge number of people. The Democrats instead decided to build a coalition of minorities and illegal immigrants and union workers, and they are dwindling in number, and they are localized. They are in urban areas in a few big cities. We outnumber them now, and we can cement this for a huge amount of the future. So as the days go by, I will detail this even more because it's just it's a godsend, I think. Thanksgiving invites now ban political talk. Yep, didn't happen in 2008. In 2008, there wasn't any of this stuff about invitations to families for Thanksgiving and Christmas banning political talk. But now it's all over the place. Apparently, leftists are going very public on social media with the fact that family members attending party or family celebrations on Thanksgiving are being asked to ban all political talk. It will not be tolerated. It will not be accepted. The Palm Beach Post, the local newspaper. Let me ask, anybody on the other side of the glass, do you guys read the Palm Beach Post? then you won't know of this. I didn't know this. The Palm Beach Post admitted that they don't know anybody that voted for Trump. The Palm Beach Post admitted that they are suffering from a huge disconnect from the people that voted for Trump. And it's so big that the Palm Beach Post has advertised for people that voted for Trump to attend editorial board meetings with the Palm Beach Post so that the Palm Beach Post can learn why people support Trump. They're admitting that they are totally out of touch with a large segment of their potential reader base. And they're inviting them to attend editorial board meetings to try to explain to the Post editors why they support Trump. Now, you can do what you want if you live in the area that the Palm Beach Post advertised, and if you didn't know about this, you're hearing about it now, or if you have known about it. I would caution you against doing this. You're not going to accomplish anything. They are not asking you in there for them to learn, contrary to what they're saying. That's not what leftists do. They're not asking you to come in and teach them anything. They want to browbeat you. They want to find out why you're so stupid. They want to find out what you're missing. They want to find out why their brilliance is not reaching and connecting to you. They don't think there's anything wrong with them. What's wrong is their reader base, and they want to figure out what's wrong with you. Do not doubt me if you are in the subscriber area of the Palm Beach Post. And one more, there was a column in the Washington Post. When was this? As usual, the print mechanism didn't print it. Let's see if it's the 15th. It'll be yesterday. A piece by somebody named Lawrence Samuel, who lives in Miami. He's an author. His idea is to get rid of the states. No more states. No more boundaries. No. I'm not making it up. They are unhinged. That's why I said this is going to be fun today. That's why this is the fun stack. States are a relic of the past. It's time to get rid of them. And it's not just the Electoral College. We're going to have an all-powerful central government in Washington that controls and sets the laws and rules for everybody. Because this guy, he believes a lot of things. Among the things he believes, for example, he cites the people who live in the panhandle of Florida who have nothing in common with the people in Miami and South Florida, and they more properly should be in Louisiana or Mississippi, Alabama, because they're more like people. But then he goes on to say that there really aren't that many cultural differences from state to state anymore. There aren't that many differences that divide us. We can all just easily come unified, and we wouldn't have egregious mistakes like this election. And all we have to do is get rid of the states. So anybody believes that the left, I talked about this yesterday, 2002, they came out of that loss and we got to change, we got to modify what we say and think about social issues. And they're not going to change, folks. They don't look at this as they goofed up. The country is wrong. The country is out of whack. The country's screwy. And the country needs to change and adapt so that the Democrats will not lose power in the future. That's what this means. Having more fun than a human being should be, allowed to have El Rushmo behind the golden EIB microphone, executing assigned host duties flawlessly. The chief executive of San Diego area cybersecurity firm has resigned over social media comments he made about assassinating Donald Trump. This was announced yesterday. Packet-led president and CEO Matt Harrigan admitted to posting the seemingly threatening rhetoric, including the statement, "I am going to kill the president-elect." He put that on his Facebook page as voting results were coming in on Tuesday night, though he would later describe his remarks as a flawed joke. His resignation took effect immediately, according to a company statement issued early Tuesday. You have to be a special kind of stupid. And I think what we are seeing is a special kind of stupid that dominates the Democrat Party and the American left. You look at the media and what they are doing and the way they're reporting on Trump's movements without them, or the way they're reporting on Trump's transition. Let me ask a serious question, folks. What's in it for them? I know. Look, I can answer my own question here. I mean, I know who they are. I'm not feigning ignorance. My point here is, what do they expect to happen? You know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing with the same result over and over again, expecting something different. They just spent how many months? 4 months trying to destroy Donald Trump. They spent 4 months trying to impugn Donald Trump with every weapon they had, with every trick in their book, every tactic that has been successfully used by the media to destroy Republican candidates over the years. It's in their playbook. They brought it all out. Every bit of it blew up in their face. All of it failed. And yet they continue with the same tried and true and worn out techniques to discredit Trump. They are apparently oblivious to public opinion relating to them. They are apparently unaware of what a joke they have become to millions of Americans, how unseriously they are taken. And they're not going to stop. Mark my words. And get this, folks, an 8th grader in Alabama was paddled, was spanked for writing Trump on the blackboard, according to his parents. Talladega County Schools discipline referral form sent home with the student. He wrote Trump's name on the blackboard and got spanked. I thought these people opposed corporal punishment. I hope they oppose spanking. Apparently it's fine to paddle an 8th grader that writes Trump's name on a blackboard. The views expressed by the host on this program documented to be almost always right. 99.8% of the time. Great to have you with us, my friends. Telephone number if you want to be on the program, 800-282-2882, and the email address, lrushbo@eibnet.us. Let me check. I just got a couple, 3 or 4 late arriving audio soundbites. If I don't look at them now, I'm not going to know what I've got here. So just hang on. Chuck Schumer, Chuck Blasio. I met with Trump to let him hear the voice of the... What? Okay, so that soundbite's 27, 28. They look pretty good. 26, Chuck Schumer. Keep number 19 standing by. I want to go back to the transition news that's out there and the drive-bys imploding, because that's really what's happening out there. I want to tell you, in case you haven't heard this, that Ted Cruz was among the many who have been made the trek to Trump Tower in recent days, and there are all kinds of names being bandied about. Cruz, I understand, was at Trump Tower for 5 hours meeting with people. He had a 1-hour meeting with Trump that I hear went very well, by the way. And that Cruz may be, I think is being considered for Attorney General. And I just want to say that if that happened, that would be fabulous. I can't think of anybody, maybe Jeff Sessions. But, man, you want somebody committed to draining that swamp? The Department of Justice and all of the Obama administration cronyism and corruption that exists in that place? You want somebody that will happily and proudly root it out in a committed... I can't think of anybody better than Ted Cruz. And Jeff Sessions co-equals here. I hear Sessions is in line for this, too. So, and Trump has assured everybody that he's the decider. And he knows. By the way, you have to love this. The New York Times is reporting that his whole transition team is imploding and that people are leaving and that they're unhappy and that no foreign leaders have called Trump. So Trump gets on Twitter. He says the failing New York Times continues to lie. Foreign leaders from all over the country, all over the world have called me. And he names the countries. And he says, my transition team is going smooth as it can be, and I am the one who's going to pick the people. I'm the one who decides. Now, everybody's continuing to make the mistake that they made all through the campaign. Both parties, by the way, made this mistake I tried to help people. I tried to tell them you cannot look at anything regarding the Trump candidacy or now his presidency the way you've looked at politics before. He's not in politics. He's not bringing a political organization to the presidency. He's not somebody that's been in elective office. Why does this matter? Let me tell you why it matters, aside from the obvious things. Politicians lead their lives for public consumption, for the most part. As such, I think this is why many people think people in politics are phony. They dress, they speak, they travel, where they go, how they spend leisure time. All of it is rooted around positive political perception within the norms of how that is defined. Politics is its own business, in a sense. It has its own protocols and its own ladder for success. And there are things, like any other business, that you have to do or you have to get close to doing in order to succeed. It is thought. Trump's blown all this up, is the point. But tax returns are the best example I can give you of this. Everybody in politics, and everybody who thinks they're going to get into politics before they get into it, starts structuring their life for the eventual public disclosure of things because it's required. And so they file taxes that are designed to look okay to the public and to the media. They have the requisite amount of money going to charity. They present themselves as one of us, or as close to that as they can. Well, now, in Trump's case, I can assure you that the idea of running for president is a new idea to Trump. When he was filing his taxes and running his business all through the 90s and in the early part of the 2000s, I am very confident in saying that he wasn't filing his tax return with the idea that it would ever be publicly scrutinized by people deciding whether or not to vote for him. But everybody in politics does. And that's just one example. Everything politicians do is designed to survive or thrive the kind of public scrutiny it gets from the media and contemporaries and voters. Trump has not done that. Now, the people in politics say that if you want to go anywhere in our business, you have to change. If you decide to come into our business, you're going to have to do it the way we've always done it. We, the consultants, we who have successfully been elected and hold office, and Trump has blown all that up. And he said, no, and he hasn't tried to conform with the Washington, New York, Boston political corridor at all, and he's not now. But they continue to insist that he do it. And when he doesn't, that's when the media implodes, starts writing stories about how Trump doesn't get it, Trump doesn't understand, Trump is disrespecting the media, because the media demands and expects to be treated with a certain amount of deference, a lot of deference, and Trump is not treating them this way. And they don't know how to deal with it. They don't know how to deal with somebody who's not going to play according to the playbook. Look, politics, the establishment, it is a very, very tight-knit group. And it is made up of a bunch of people who do nothing but conform. That, in fact, is the coin of the realm, conforming to the norms, conforming to the what you have to do is and what you don't do, conforming to what the powers that be decree must be done. None of that applies now. And the people who demand that, or in their whole lives have lived it and now expect it, don't know how to adapt to somebody like Donald Trump, who has no interest. The reason he ran is to blow all that up. The reason he wants to be president is to get rid of all of these conforming protocols that make everybody in this business robotic in a way. He doesn't want to conform in this way. He's going to stay who he is. He's going to do the things he set out to do. He's going to get them done the best way he knows how, based on his own experiences of success and achievement. The people over here in the establishment and in the political corridors, political consultants, elected officials, lobbyists, you name it, are bamboozled. They don't know how to react to this. They have all their lives lived with everybody in their group conforming and acknowledging and behaving according to the playbook or the rules. And when somebody doesn't and succeeds, they're lost. And that's where we are here. In their world, everything Trump does, everything he's done, spells defeat. Everything. From his opening announcement, he should not have survived that and did. He shouldn't have survived any of the October surprise things. He should not have survived the Access Hollywood video, but he did. They can't figure it out. It doesn't make sense to them. So they're going to continue trying to destroy Trump the same way they've been trying to since his announcement. They have not learned that it doesn't work. They will not learn that it doesn't work because they don't know any other way. It's that tight-knit. And Trump is in there blowing it all up. For example, the transition. You're supposed to go out and get a bunch of old Washington hands. You're supposed to hire people who have done this for previous presidents, have worked themselves for previous administrations, have been hirers and firers. Trump's not doing any of that. He just got rid of a bunch of people who were starting to do it that way. The real reason that the Chris Christie National Security Team is gone is because Christie was doing what Christie knows. Christie was going out and getting people who are part of that corridor, that establishment. He was going out and getting lobbyists and others, but he thought friendly lobbyists. I'm sure he was getting, there are Republican and Democrat lobbyists. To Trump, they're all a problem. And he was going out and he was putting together a team, national security team, based on people with previous national security experience. And Trump doesn't want any part of that because he doesn't want to be sabotaged. Trump's smart enough to know that over half of Washington doesn't want him there. And he's not going to purposely hire any of those people to be in a position to do him harm. It's no more complicated than that. But they fully expect him to do that. In their world, there are only a few people who know how to staff the West Wing. There are only a few people who know how to put together a national security team. There are only a few people who know how to vet people for AG, for Commerce Secretary. And if you don't use them, you don't have a prayer of putting together a working administration. And Trump is throwing all of that out and saying, I know who I want in these jobs, but what I don't want is people who are going to be in a position to sabotage me or suborn me, because he's not stupid. He knows full well. I don't know what percentage of it is, the number of people who don't want him there. There's Larry Arnn on TV. Larry Arnn, I hear, of Hillsdale College is up for education secretary. Do you know how fabulous that would be? When I hear these names being floated, I think of all these never-Trumpers who would not be open. They said Trump is going to destroy conservatism. Trump's going to destroy the Republican Party. If you look at the people that Trump is considering, I dare say that he's got a greater list of potential cabinet members than a straight down-the-line Republican would put together. I'm not on the transition team. I'm not on any team. I haven't spoken to Trump since he was here for an interview, whatever that phone call was. Why? Why do you... What? Whoa. Well, they are guys I would pick. Staff is telling me you seem to know a lot about what's going on. Are you part of it? I don't know anything going on. I'm telling you, I know who Trump is. I know who the left is. I know who the Washington establishment is. I know how they are, how they think, what they do, what they expect. I know how they try to ruin people, how they promote people, how they sabotage things. I know this. I haven't been sitting here as a potted plant for 30 years. So Larry Arnn's being interviewed on Fox right now because his name's been bandied about. If Larry Arnn ended up as education secretary, that would just be, you put him in there at education and Cruz or Jeff Sessions as attorney general. Look, I'm here to tell you that the names I have seen floated are more solid and better in terms of conservatism than your average Republican nominee would put together. You know why? your average Republican nominee would pick some Democrats. Yes, to be fair and to be magnanimous and to reach across the aisle. Even if a Republican were ever to win in this dramatic a fashion, which is doubtful, but even if a Republican were to have won, we still would have had some Democrat names being floated, and we would be assured we can trust these are good Democrats. These are people that believe in the greatness of America. And we'd be sitting here thinking, oh, my God, sabotaged and screwed again. And that's not what's happening. And because it's not happening, it is Washington, official Washington, that's imploding. It's the media that is imploding. It's Obamacare that's going to implode. It's the Iran policy that's going to implode. It is our immigration policy that is going to implode. And that's why all of the supporters of these various things are imploding. And they're reporting it that Trump is imploding, that his transition team is imploding. And it's not. Trump is getting rid of the dead weight. Trump is making, when he makes mistakes with hires, he fixes it immediately. And we are witnessing insiders who are being shut out react to being shut out. And human nature is very easy to predict here. If you're an insider, if you think you're a power broker, if you think you've been close to power all your life and therefore would be attractive to, say, a new President Trump, and you're not picked, well, you're going to be righteously indignant. And you're going to think Trump doesn't know what he's doing. Why, here I am, vast experience. I am a power broker. I'm a power maker. I am a guy, and Trump's overlooking you. Well, you're not going to sit there and say there's anything wrong with you. It has to be something wrong with Trump. And that's what we're witnessing here right now, as the effort is ongoing to make you and everybody think that Trump doesn't know what he's doing, the country is at great risk because of this, and that nobody knows what they're doing because Trump doesn't have any political experience, and it's a dog and pony show up there, and it's a disaster waiting. That's what they want you to believe. It's the exact opposite. This is the new normal. Trump derangement syndrome has already reached escape velocity, and the guy hasn't even been sworn in. Now, give you as an example, Trump leaving Trump Tower, his home last night, and going to 21 for dinner. The media has had a legitimate conniption over not being told, over not being taken, over not having a pool reporter there or a series of reporters. The AP is using as their example, we were there when JFK got shot. We were there when Reagan was shot. We need to be there. That's their reason. Isn't that cool of them? The reason they want to be there. But I'm holding here in my formerly nicotine-stained fingers the New York Times, December 26, 2008, during the Obama transition period. In the news-free zone that is Barack Obama's pre-inauguration Hawaiian vacation, this passes for a bulletin. The president-elect ditched his press pool of media minders to take his daughters to a water park on Friday morning. Now, was the media upset over that? Was the media all over itself, telling everybody else, Obama ditched us, Obama disrespects us, Obama's not behaving with protocol? No. You know what they wrote, the New York Times? In making his dash, Mr. Obama drew attention both to the seemingly odd but important rituals of the president and the presidential bubble, and to just how much this very private public man chafes under its constraints. So excuses were made when Obama ditched his bubble to take his kids out to a water park. When he ditched the media, when he didn't take them along when he was on vacation in Hawaii, it was understandable because this is a very, very private public man chafing under its constraints. We have to cut him some slack. And then I've got one here from the AP, December 1st, 2000. Same thing. Same thing. Quick time out, my friends. We will be back. We will continue in mere moments. Folks, this is one of those days where everything I have I want to do next. And I've got tons of stuff here, and I can't do everything next. It's going to take the entire program to get it all in. And it's looking like it won't happen. And this is becoming the case each and every day. So we try to get editing done here, get the most important stuff in, but it's a crapshoot each and every day. So it's popping. Everything's popping at the time the program is on. Anyway, to the phones, I want to start there with Faye in Ocean County, New Jersey. I'm glad you called. Hi.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Yes, ma'am.
This is about that mother who said she was throwing her kid out of the house.
She did throw him out. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, she did. I don't know exactly what she was thinking. I got 6 kids of my own, including a 7-year-old, who incidentally just started reading the Rush books, just like all the siblings.
All right,
and they love them. They love them. But anyway, I can tell you that a 7-year-old does not have a sense of sarcasm or exaggeration. And I'm probably, at least I sure hope, the mom didn't really mean she was going to kick him out forever. But to that kid, when he heard his mother say, "Get your stuff and get out, we don't do Trump here, blah, blah, blah," this kid honestly thought
she packed a suitcase for the kid. She packed a suitcase. Do not wait just a second here now. Faye, you're trying to be nice and accepting and generous. You know, I thought I had more. Faye, don't hang up. We will continue this in a minute. Great to have you back, and we return now to Faye in Ocean County, New Jersey. Faye, one thing I want to say here. Imagine how the media would have been all over this story if the mother had been a Trump supporter, furious at his defeat.
Oh, I know. She would have been crucified.
And this story still hasn't made out of Houston locally. It's still a local story that, because our show prep knows no bounds, we found.
Well, I can just tell you, when I heard the audio of that, I was so mad. I was shaking, and they say that she didn't actually break any laws. I don't know if she broke any laws technically, but she did worse than breaking a law. I mean, a child trusts his mother more than that's the only thing a child trusts. And have your mom tell you, "Get out of my house." You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if offers pour in to adopt this kid.
Well, here's the thing.
Him, that's for sure.
You and your in the previous hour, or the previous segment when we were talking, you were cutting the mother some slack, and I ran out of time. I was going to disagree with you. I think the anti-Trump people, the left-wing Democrats, the evidence is all over the country. They're deranged. They are unhinged. They are insanely angry here and unhinged and unsettled. And I don't think this mother was joking. I think she was genuinely livid, and this is how she took it out on her kid and took it out on anybody else. And it's only because she's been shamed that she's reining it all back in now. It's only because people found out about this. But I think
she wasn't embarrassed. I heard she was the one who posted this. I don't know, but she doesn't deserve to be a mother.
I haven't seen.
I don't know.
I haven't seen her any video or heard any audio of this. I didn't think it had made it out of local news. But I don't travail social media either. Where did you hear it? Where did you see this?
I heard it locally on the radio on 710 WR.
All right. Well, I haven't gotten it, but I don't need it. I mean, I have no doubt. Look at this. You've got a guy at a high-tech company that had to be fired because he posted he wanted to kill Trump. I mean, we're dealing here, Faye, with a special kind of stupid. And it is a real deranged stupid. And it matters. We're learning who these people are, and we've got to accept it as what it is and how we see it. People have got to learn who these people are and what we are up against here. Anyway, you mentioned that you have 6 kids, did you say?
Yes.
And they've read the Rush Revere series?
Oh, they love them. My 7-year-old is in 2nd grade, and she just started reading them now. My kids love these books so much, they're starting to fall apart.
Well, I want to fix that. I want to send you a whole set, maybe a couple sets since you've got 6 kids. So I want you to hold on here. Mr. Snerdley will get an address from you, and we'll FedEx you a little Rush Revere Time Travels with Exceptional Americans, Time Travel Adventures with Exceptional Americans, a little packet of things, a goodie basket that we put together for people just like you, because I am so gratified that you've gone to the trouble to get these books and give them to your kids. I really appreciate that. As I said, folks, everything I have, I want to do next. So I've got these audio sound bites here that I want to start. I just got this story. And this is from our old buddies at Campus Reform. This is a bunch of conservative kids, students, who have started their own website to present the alternative view from the dominant Marxism that is now taught on major college campus. And there is a national walkout being planned which seeks sanctuary for illegal immigrant students. Students at more than 100 universities plan to participate in a nationwide walkout. It's supposed to happen today, to demand that college administrators offer sanctuary for illegal immigrants. The protest effort is an explicit reaction to Trump's victory and is scheduled to take place just one day after a similar mass walkout objecting to Trump on a more general basis. Now, before you have the wrong reaction, we got to stop and think about this. This actually could be a great idea. Give sanctuary to illegal immigrants on college campus. So we get the word out to all the illegal immigrants. Just make your way to the nearest campus that is participating here. This will make it so much easier to identify them, for dealing with them, how we choose to going forward. It'll make it much easier for ICE and immigration officials to find these people. It could be a win-win. Finding them on college campus would be a lot easier than find them in a sanctuary city like New York or a city like Chicago. But here again, seriously, here is more evidence of the unhinged nature of the reaction to the election. Now, here's NBC News, and let's get started here. Stand by on audio soundbite number 4. Here's the NBC News headline. As Trump leaves press behind for steak dinner, incoming administration already showing lack of transparency. The subheadline is this. In a highly unusual move, President-elect Donald Trump on Tuesday night left his Manhattan residence without notifying the reporters covering him or giving any indication of where he was going. The maneuver seemed to deliberately limit access to the media. Trump spokeswoman Hope Hicks later told NBC News he's having dinner with his family, decided to go out. He made the decision after she, by the way, must include this in the story. Hope Hicks, who is one of Trump's spokespeople, told the media he was in for the night. And it was after she told the media he was in for the night that he left with the familia to go to the 21 Club for dinner. By the way, did you notice that they report Trump went to a steakhouse? Now, 21 is not known as a steakhouse. They've got great steaks there, but it's not known as a steakhouse. I don't think they'd be disturbed, but that's not how they're known. So the idea that Trump went to a steakhouse, that alone is supposed to alarm people that Trump eats beef. Because eating beef, as you know, contributes to climate change. Because we have to feed the steers. We have to grow the steers. We have to do all of that. And all of that leads to further damage to the climate. Don't think that it was just an incidental little add-on to include that Trump went to a steakhouse. It was an attempt at subtle criticism. And by the way, for example, my little tech bloggers, it would work like a charm. They would get mad that Trump screwed the media and then double mad that he's eating beef. I'm not kidding you. You can sit there and laugh out there. You think I'm making this up. I'm not making this stuff up. This is a trigger. Somebody going to a steakhouse like Trump is a trigger to these young little snowflake millennials who are just having a conniption. Oh, my God, he's destroying the planet. And having a reaction like that. And maybe a little anger thrown in. But you know what I find just ironic and delicious and funny as hell about this? Back to the top headline. As Trump leaves press behind for steak dinner, incoming administration already showing lack of transparency. NBC, I think you've jumped the shark. The onion just got ripped off. I mean, after all, Hillary Clinton had a secret, illegal email server to cover up massive corruption and pay for play at her and her husband's foundation. She lied time and time again about the illegal server and what she was using it for and whether or not classified information was being trafficked on her private illegal server. She was in violation of the Espionage Act thousands of times. The president lied about his knowledge of this and was emailing Hillary using a fake name because he knew that her server was illegal. Did we ever hear the media talking about Hillary Clinton's lack of transparency? Did we ever hear about Hillary Clinton trying to keep the press away from what she was doing? No. Trump goes to dinner with the family and all hell breaks loose. And you know something else? Just saw the clock. Got to take a break. Sit tight, folks. Back with much more. Don't go away. The other thing that the media is complaining about. You ready for this? So here they are complaining that Trump ditched them. Lack of transparency. Meanwhile, Hillary's doing everything she can undercover, invisibly, nobody able to see anything, and they don't care. And now they're complaining that Trump hasn't had a press conference yet. He hadn't had a post-election press conference. They're jumping the shark out there at NBC. Really, they got nothing on Fonzie now. Hillary Clinton didn't do a press conference for how many? 200-some-odd days. Never did they once complain about it. Never did they have a problem with it. Never was Hillary in violation of any protocol. But looky here at Trump, why he's violating everything. I'm going to tell you what this is. If you want to boil it down to the essential aspects of human nature, the drive-bys are feeling rejected. Isn't that supposed to happen? They're nothing but a bunch of college kids themselves in terms of maturity and mentality. They are the media. They are every bit as powerful as the president in their own minds, every bit as powerful as any elected official. You are supposed to defer to them. They are your gateway to the people. If you don't have a relationship with us, you will not be able to reach the American people. They really believe this. Even today, they believe this about Trump. Secretly, they know Trump doesn't need them, and that just irritates them even more. Trump, like Reagan, has the ability to go over their heads and reach the American people anytime he wants to. It's called Twitter. And he does it routinely still, and they can't stop it, and they can't beat him at it, and they can't tell people not to trust Trump. They tried for 6 months. Seriously, what do they expect to happen here? They have done everything in their arsenal, everything in their playbook to defeat Trump, and it didn't work. Trump won, and Trump won big. Do they think... It's a simple question. Do they think that all of a sudden now they're going to be able to persuade people that Trump's a bad guy after having failed to do that for the last year and a half? What must they be thinking? Maybe not a year and a half, 14 months, whatever. They tried every day, countless times. You know, with the October surprises, they did everything in their arsenal to persuade people to abandon Trump, and it didn't work. And yet they're continuing with the same lame approach. And I think you can boil it down to one simple thing. They're just being rejected. Everything they think they are is being thrown back at them in their face. They're not as powerful as the president. They aren't needed in order for Trump to reach the people. They aren't necessary. They don't rate as they would with a traditional Democrat or Republican president. And it just burns them up. It just frosts them. They right now are incapable of honesty toward Donald Trump. They are, and have been for a while, they're incapable of objectivity. And they, by the way, they've admitted they've thrown that away. The New York Times had that big apology letter. We're sorry. We're really sorry. We're going to go back to doing what you've always known we do. We're going to go back to covering the news. They're not changing at all. They're still on their search and destroy mission. They're going to fail. The more they keep it up, the tighter will be the relationship Trump has with voters. They are cementing the relationship that Trump has with people with all of this adversity because it's transparent. It sees for what it is. It's just petulant, childlike, immature, crybaby stuff. He doesn't listen. He didn't take us to the steakhouse. He didn't take us to the motorcade. We didn't get to be seen getting out of the car with Trump. We didn't get to bask in the glow. And they don't know how to deal with it. Do not doubt me. And now back to the phones. We have with us a young man named Corbin. He's from Sweeney, Texas. He's 14 years old. Corbin, I'm so glad that you called and that you got through. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing very good. Thank you for taking my call.
Yes, sir. You're welcome.
I was calling in to thank you for 3 great things you've done in my life. First, and the best one, is that one of my mom's conditions for dating my dad was that he had to start listening to the Rush Limbaugh program, so to your show. And if my dad wouldn't have started listening to your show and enjoyed it and became who he is now, I wouldn't be alive.
That's very perceptive. That you wouldn't be here, Corbin, if your dad hadn't done what your mom wanted him to do and ended up liking the program. I can see why you're thrilled about that. You'd much rather be here than not, especially now, right?
Yes, sir.
What's the second reason?
The second reason is I absolutely love your Rush Revere books. Liberty is hilarious.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You're making my day here, Corbin. You really are. What's the third reason?
The third reason is because I'm homeschooled. So my dad, I'll go to work and help my dad at his job site, and we'll listen to your show, and I really enjoy that. It makes my time that I spend with my dad a lot more enjoyable.
Wow, this is wonderful, Corbin. I don't know how to thank you. I really, Corbin. Would your parents mind if I sent you an iPad? Do you have an iPad?
No, I do not.
Would you, if you think your parents would mind if I sent you one?
No, I don't think they would.
Okay, cool. Well, we will. I will send you one out. So I want you to hold on here because we're about out of time. But I can't thank you. Corbin, you're ranking up there. You're one of the all-time top 10 best calls we've had on this program.
Thank you.
You really, you knocked it out of the park, young man. So you hang on. We'll get your address. I'm going to send you some stuff from Liberty, too, from the from the Rush Revere gang. So, yeah. You deserve that and more, and your parents, too. So thank you again. I'm glad you got through. Don't hang up the phone, Mr. Snerdley. We'll be right back with you. That's the best dating demand I've ever heard. She says to him, you have got to listen to Rush Limbaugh, and you'd better like it, or we're not going anywhere. Young Corbin. You know what? He'd make a good member of Trump's cabinet. Assistant Secretary of Education for Youth Outreach or some such thing. Anyway, we've got much more. Folks, hang on. Meeting and surpassing, meeting and exceeding all audience expectations every day right here on the most listened to radio talk show in America, hosted by me, America's real anchorman, Rush Limbaugh, here behind the golden EIB microphone at the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies. Telephone number 800-282-2882. And if you want to send an email, I check them. I check them during the breaks. It's lrushbo@eibnet.us. You know, Hillsdale College is one of our sponsors here at the EIB Network. And in telling you about Hillsdale, I've often regaled you with stories about Dr. Larry Arnn. He's the president of the institution, used to run Claremont Institute out in California. He's a brilliant man. He's the guiding light behind the Hillsdale Foundation of the Constitution being taught to every graduate, regardless of major. They have to be proficient in it or they don't get out of there. They don't graduate. And he's a serious believer. His name has been mentioned is in the running for education secretary, which I think would be exquisite. I think it would be close to perfection. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I've heard it. He was on Fox today, and I want to play just a couple sound bites so you can hear him. I've often said that the reason I like to meet Dr. Arnn is because I don't have to talk. He gets rolling, and you just sit there and listen and learn. He's an expert on Churchill, has written books on Churchill, many other famous figures in the world who have been instructive and influential, and why. Now, they brought him on to discuss the Electoral College. One of the movements that's out there, and we haven't discussed this yet, so now's a good time. There is a petition out there that now has 4.5 million signatures. Have you heard about this petition? It's a petition designed to get as many signatures as possible to tell the electors to elect Hillary Clinton president when they meet in December because she won the popular vote. Now, the electors can do what they want to do, but tradition and custom mandates they vote for the person who won their state. And they always have. It would be, I can't think of a word to describe it if what the signers of this petition want to happen. But they're dead serious about it. So Fox went out and got Dr. Arnn on to react to this. And it was Eric Shawn that was talking to him. The question, the petition on change.org, about 4.5 million have signed that petition calling for the end of the Electoral College. They want the college to anoint Hillary as president when they meet on December the 19th because she received 1 million more votes than Donald Trump. Why do you say, Dr. Arnn, that they are wrong?
Those are foolish people, at least in this respect. Just think what the United States of America achieves and has to achieve. It controls a wonderful land going all the way across a continent, and it spread across that land without benefit of colonies. And that's because people can control things in their states and exercise their very important control over the federal government through states. And so it's a shame that Donald Trump didn't get the popular vote, but think what a shame it would be if the president could be elected from 10 pockets of population. They'd be like capitals, maybe like in the Hunger Games, and the rest of us would be like colonies, right? So it matters where people live in America, and the whole country gets represented.
Let me add something to this, because this is, I think, crucially important. In the first place, I do not yet accept that Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. And I'm not trying to be obstinate or stubborn about it. My reasoning is that when it is finally all in, and when it's all counted, and when it's all checked, I'm not going to be surprised if we find out that 1 million or 2 million illegal immigrants voted, non-citizens. I will not be surprised if that happens. And that the majority of them would have voted for Hillary. But here's the other thing about this Electoral College business. Right now, let's look at California and New York, and if you are a Republican living in either state. In the presidential race, it doesn't matter if you vote. You are so outnumbered that the Democrat, no matter who it is, could be Bugs Bunny, is going to win those two states, simply because of the vast majority of Democrats that there are. As such, presidential candidates don't campaign in those states. Trump didn't go to California much. I mean, he had a couple of rallies out there early on during the primaries. Hillary didn't spend any time in those states other than to go fundraise. But other than campaigning, people don't do it because it's a waste of time, waste of money. They didn't spend much advertising out there, except as it might be run nationally if you buy certain California markets and New York markets. But there are no campaigns in these states. Instead, we have battleground states, which are toss-ups based on the electoral vote. And so that's where the bulk of campaigning takes place, every presidential campaign. And those battleground states are pretty constant, but they change. Like North Carolina has become one, because of all the Yankees that have left the Northeast and moved in there. Used to be a reliable red state, now it's up for grabs. Ohio, Florida, Pennsylvania became a battleground state. Unreal. Trump wins Pennsylvania, by the way. So many things. Michigan, Wisconsin, Hillary's blue wall crumbled. And all of that could be undone if you go ahead and just count people in New York and California where Republicans didn't even vote. If there were no electoral college, you'd have an entirely different electoral vote count and picture in New York and California, because Republican votes would matter. Candidates would campaign there. The entire shape of the campaign, the entire appearance would change dramatically. But because it didn't, to now go out and erase the Electoral College results, for whatever reason, is exactly what Dr. Arnn here suggests. It would be foolish and not representative of the campaign at all. This, I think, is the brilliance of the Founding Fathers in the Electoral College. It's the brilliance because of the way it's set up and the way it works. That's where the candidates went. The battleground states are battleground states for a reason. And the elected president won them. He won where he campaigned. Enough said. He won where he campaigned. Hillary lost where she campaigned. She didn't even go to Wisconsin. She thought it was so in the bag. That's why you don't get rid of the Electoral College. It's the same principle of why in the House states have proportional representation based on population, but every state gets 2 senators. It doesn't matter. Every state gets 2. But the House of Representatives is proportional to population. That's how things are balanced out. It really is a miracle, this entire setup that the Founding Fathers gave us. And it makes perfect sense that a bunch of spoiled little losers want to go out and change the rules after they lose. They expected to win in a landslide. They expected this was going to be a landslide win, that Hillary was going to be coronated. And since that didn't happen, these little spoiled brats want to go out now and change the rules post facto. And they want the electors in these states to ignore the vote in their states and vote for Hillary. And that's what the purpose of the petition is. But the whole, I mean, Dr. Arnn's exactly right in everything that he said here. You would have these population centers that would end up electing the president. You'd have New York, you'd have California, Chicago. You would have San Francisco and Los Angeles, maybe San Diego. You'd have Chicago, you'd have Seattle, maybe Portland. You would have New York. Those would be the states, the cities. He called them colonies. That would elect the president every year if you did away. And that means everybody that lives in flyover country would not count no matter what they did. Now, doesn't that make the Democrats lost the middle? The Democrats, you go look at this county by county map, you can't find any blue on it. The Democrats have lost. This is why I've spent so much time, and I'm not finished, detailing the depths of their defeat since 2010. It is monumental. They threw away the white working class vote. They announced it. They did it on purpose going back to 2011. And they got what they deserved. Those people voted against them. Now that that's happened, they want to go back and say those votes don't count. We didn't campaign for them anyway. These are some of the most selfish, self-centered, spoiled little children masquerading as mature adults that I have ever encountered. Your modern-day Democrat Party and its associated constituencies on the left. One more Dr. Arnn soundbite. Eric Shawn said, well, what do you think should happen, Dr. Arnn? And what are you calling for on December 19th when the electors from different states actually meet?
They should do their duty as it is established both in law and in custom. Most states require by law that the electors vote for the person who won the popular vote in that state, and they should continue doing that. But also remember this, you called it venerable. Just think what a miracle it is that you can appoint a great executive powerful enough to rule the most powerful nation on earth and one of the biggest ones, and have him be accountable to the people he governs. We have the oldest successful system for doing that, and people want to change that. That's just so much hubris to me.
His point is, if you do away with the Electoral College, you're doing away with the notion that the president is accountable to all the people. If you do away with the Electoral College, you're doing away with national campaigns, by the way. And all of the people would not have a role. Now, you might say, well, the Republicans in New York and California don't. True, but it's up to them to fix it, not the rules get changed. If the Republicans can't mount a challenge in New York and California, it's time they figure out how to. But you don't go around after you lose going, and demanding the rules change to accommodate your loser status, which is exactly what they are doing. Since we're on the sound bites, grab audio soundbite number, number 27 and number 28. And I may not play number 28, depending on what I hear here in number 27. This was outside Trump Tower in New York City today. This socialist mayor, Bill de Blasio, held a press conference to talk about his meeting with Trump. And here's a little bit of what he said.
My job as mayor is to be their voice and to give him perspective on what New Yorkers are feeling right now, what their concerns are, what their fears are. I thought it was very important, particularly as the president-elect begins his transition, for him to hear the voices of the people.
He did.
And to get some perspective from outside the transition bubble.
He did.
To understand what's being said in the streets and subways of our city and why people are so deeply concerned.
He knows. He doesn't need you, of all people, to tell him. Now, here's the hubris of this. Here is the mayor of New York City, who is largely considered to be kind of a laughing matter. And he wants to meet with Trump because he, de Blasio, is the voice of the people. And he, as the voice of the people, needs to tell Trump what people on the buses and the streets and the subways are thinking and doing and saying. So once again, presumption is Trump's an idiot. He's blind, deaf, purposefully not listening, and he's got to know how we're hurting. He's got to know the pain. Trump's got to know. Somebody needs to tell Trump we're hurting, we're in pain. Somebody's going to do something about it now. So de Blasio decides he's going to carry that message. I think let's play the next soundbite. De Blasio continued with his recounting of his education.
I told him that we were very concerned that we had to show all New Yorkers, including Muslim New Yorkers, that they were welcome. I also raised concerns about some of the messages and some of the rhetoric that, for so many people, had been hurtful. And I let them know that so many New Yorkers were fearful, and that more had to be done to show that this country can heal, that people be respected.
Wow, this guy lectured Trump on everything. But I know he's not popular. It's my hope he's a laughing matter, but he's not popular. But this guy presumes to tell Trump. Notice what it is. He's got to know how people are feeling. He's got to know what they're feeling. And I told him. And he knows now. And that's what we are dealing with. All these people are feeling rejected because they have been. Massively so. Media, establishment, big-time Democrats. Also, Chuck Schumer. There's no sound bites. Well, I do have a sound bite for Schumer, but Schumer, this is incredible what Schumer, he had a little press conference today. I mean, I know these people like the back of my hand. This guy, this is exactly the kind of stuff they did following their 2002 midterm loss. I don't even know if I'm going to waste your time with it. I've taken another obscene profit time out now. And while that happens, I'll figure out what I'm going to do next. So don't go away. Okay, Chuck Schumer was elected a Democrat leader in the Senate today. That's not a surprise. He's replacing Dingy Harry. We had a little press conference here today. And some of the things that Senator Chuck U. Schumer had to say. He said, first, we heard the American people loud and clear. They felt that the government wasn't working for them. They felt that the economy was rigged against them in many places, and the big government was too beholden to big money and special interests. Well, this sounds like he agrees with Trump. He said, we heard the American people loud and clear. They felt. Now, don't be fooled by this. He says, we heard what they said. They think the government wasn't working for them. The economy was rigged. Big government too beholden to big money. Then he said, we will unite our caucus and speak to the blue-collar worker in West Virginia and Michigan, as well as the people who live along the coasts. We can unite the disparate factions of our party and country. Our whole leadership team is emblematic of that. Our team is ideologically and geographically diverse. There it is again. Diverse. Based on skin color. Diverse based on whether you have a penis or vagina. Diverse based on your gender and your orientation. Diverse based on a bunch of things that don't really matter. There is a debate going on, said Chuck Yu. There's a debate going on whether we should be a party of the diverse Obama coalition or the blue-collar America in the heartland, Schumer said. Some think we need to make a choice. I believe there does not have to be a division. In fact, there must not be a division. We need a sharper, bolder, stronger economic message. We needed to let the American people understand that we all believe that the system is not working for them and that we're going to change it. I mean, this is exactly, in the 2002 midterms, the first George W. Bush term, this is the Wellstone Memorial, these people got shellacked. Now, in midterms, the party out of power, in that case Democrats, always picks up seats in the House. It's just the way it works. And they didn't. The Republicans gained seats, and it was shocking. So the Democrats, and the reason the exit polls was given that value voters wanted no part of the Democrats. So they went out after the election and 2 weeks after it and said that we're going to examine how we are seen on values questions and we're going to make the necessary adjustments and changes. And they didn't. And they're not going to do this either. The Democrat Party is in the position it's in largely because they govern against the will of a majority of people. And by definition, majority of the people we now know and are assured are not believers in big government and socialism and all this. They oppose it dramatically. And the Democrats aren't going to give any of that away or change any of that, but they're going to try to make tracks here by saying that they hear people and are going to make necessary adjustments, but don't look for it. It's not who they are, and they're not going to change. They think you need to change, not them. That's right, my friends. This saga continues. A man, a legend, a way of life. By the way, Donald Trump is saying, and then Kellyanne Conway is saying, too, that he did not request top-secret clearance for his kids. That was another media lie that is out there. And there will be more, but he set the record straight. Despite reports suggesting the contrary, a transition team official says that Trump did not request or begin paperwork to have his children gain top-level security clearance, according to a pool report. CBS reported Monday that they did. Before I get back to the phones, grab audio soundbite number 19. I've had some emails today from people who want me to explain further why I am always so confident in telling you in the audience who the establishment is and what they're doing and what they're going to do and how they think and all that. And look, I just, folks, I've been doing this for 29 years. Well, actually, if you count the 4 years in Sacramento, 33 years. And my life prior to that was spent being highly interested in all this stuff. It's been a learning process all of these years. I mean, the learning never stops, as I say, and it's just recognizing what is, and part of it is these are things I couldn't know when I was 35 or 40. I hadn't lived long enough. I hadn't met enough people. I hadn't had enough opportunities to see and hang around people up close to learn how and who they are and what they do. It does require a certain number of years of experience up close and from afar, and keen powers of observation that you add to the base of knowledge that's constantly expanding. Like, if you go back and listen to this program back in the 90s, there wasn't any talk of a ruling class, the elites, the establishment. It was there. The closest we got to it was when we discussed Republican Party and conservatism and how they really don't like conservatives because they associate it with the Barry Goldwater landslide loss and how they weren't big on Reagan. But it's taken years for me to figure this out, to learn it, and to be sure of it myself. But I have a soundbite here that might help. This is Mike Murphy. Mike Murphy, probably by reputation, is the Republican Party's leading political consultant. Murphy has probably been hired by more candidates for high office. And there may be others, I don't know. I'm not trying to short anybody here, but as far as I know, Murphy ranks. If he's not number one, he's in a very short list. Top 5, for sure. And as such, he's a go-to guy. Murphy ran Jeb Bush's $115 million. So when Jeb Bush says that he's going to win the nomination by losing the base, that was a philosophy developed by Republican consultants. The Republican consultants class, the people that candidates hire to organize their campaigns, put together their ad campaigns, place the advertising buys, all of that the consultants do. They're campaign managers in many respects. And many in the Republican Party, as you well know, have a very arm's length relationship with the Republican base. It's rooted in abortion and the so-called social issues, which the mainstream of the Republican Party and the entire establishment is deathly opposed to. They abortion, smortion. They don't want to be part of any campaign. They don't think they can win with it. And by the same token, these are the people that believe that the Republican Party can't win anything if it doesn't support amnesty. Well, what they believe is the Republican Party can't win anything if it doesn't appeal to the Hispanic vote. To them, politics has become demographics, not ideas. This is my big problem with them. I've always thought politics is ideas, and maybe not politics, but advancing, appealing to an ever-expanding majority of people's rooted in ideas to me, not demographics. When you go the demographic route, you are by definition giving up on persuading anybody. If you think you need Hispanics, for example, you'll go out and try to be what you think they want you to be. Even if that means you have to support something you really don't believe in, like amnesty, you go out and say you do. And if you've got donors demanding you do that, then that's even more reason to go do it. And the ideas don't matter. This is my big problem with all of this. Demographics are one thing, and you don't mind factoring them, but I've always thought, and it's not my business, so I could be dead wrong. I'm not in the political consultants business, and I'm not in the business of running elections. There are professionals who do that, but like everybody else, I have my thoughts and opinions on it. But I've always believed that people are human beings, and we have some things in common. And finding them and appealing to them as human beings rather than as victims or members of a group is, in the long run, going to be far more meaningful and productive than taking your policy manual and slicing it up into a bunch of different things that may not have anything in common, but you are out appealing to this group that you're weak in. Maybe you're having trouble with women, so you come up with things to say to women to get them to support you and all that. It's a losing proposition. And it has been. Until Trump has come along. And Trump didn't do any of that. I mean, Trump spoke to people as people. And he spoke to people where they live and how they live and the reasons why. And it didn't matter what their race was. It didn't matter what their sex or sexual orientation was. And as such, the whole demographic thing didn't matter. But to the Republican establishment, it's Democrats too, to the consultant class, the establishment class, it's all about groups. And the way you tailor messages for groups of people rather than having an overarching message for everybody. So Murphy is one of these Republicans that believes, for example, that we didn't have a prayer of ever winning the White House again if we didn't find a way to reach Hispanics. Now, just saying that may be true, I don't know, but it's what comes next that's the problem. The assumption is that every Hispanic thinks alike, is the first assumption. The second assumption is that something they all agree on is that we have to have open borders. In other words, they believe that you have Hispanics that live in the country and they're citizens. But if you don't open the country up to everybody with an Hispanic name, they're not going to vote for you. So their view of Hispanics is that they care about Hispanics first, second, and third, and Latinos, and getting into the country, whether they're breaking a law or not. Now, I just don't think that's the case. I don't think you can take an entire group of people like Hispanics and claim that most of them are willing to be lawless while being true to their heritage. But this is what we end up essentially hearing or believing. So, given that, here's Mike Murphy. Was on the Bloomberg TV show, With All Due Respect. This is John Heilemann and Mike Murphy. Heilemann with Mark Halpern does this show. Here's the question. Heilemann says, Mike, why were you so confident for so long there was no way Trump would win? What did you get wrong?
I did not think he'd do better with Latinos. I assumed he'd get historic numbers of African-American turnout in places like Detroit and Milwaukee, which she did not do, Hillary Clinton. And finally, I knew we'd do well with non-college educated white working class folks, but I did not know he would break the meter. I was looking at Luzerne County in Pennsylvania as Wilkes-Barre, which is a good working class kind of tilt Democrat area. He blew away Reagan numbers there. That kind of thing in places like there in the Michael Moore towns in Michigan around Flint and other places, Wisconsin, was enough to give him a lead of about 100,000 votes in those three states and pick the lock of the Electoral College. I missed that coming because that has not been seen before.
Right. I missed it because it hasn't been seen before. So, look, this is... I'm not playing this to be critical of Murphy. It's just an opportunity for me to explain to you why I say or think the things I do about this. I think people get locked into can't do that, we got to do this, and even on Fox, up until 9 o'clock election night on Fox, there were various people saying this is going to be a bloodbath. Now you see all the late votes of Hispanics and all the Hispanic early votes. Oh my God! You realize what a bloodbath this is going to be for Trump? This is the assumption. It's simply because they were Hispanic and vote against Republicans because Republicans were seen as against amnesty. And I love it being blown to smithereens. Now, let's see. Yep, got to take another obscene profit break, my friends. But hang tough. We'll be back. We will continue in just a moment. Don't go away. Here is Jacqueline in Canton, Ohio. Great to have you on the program, Jacqueline. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Rush?
Well, welcome. I'm glad you got through.
Thank you. Hey, first of all, I want to say my family loves to listen to you, and we sit around and listen to your show, and actually your comic relief is, we enjoy it.
Thank you.
Say that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
I want to know what you think is going to happen now that I don't think everything has, settled as far as, like, it all sinking in what has happened to the Democratic Party in this election. And I want to know what you think is going to happen with them, like the blame game, because I think it's just begun, and I think you will actually get.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing to look out for. It has been said, and I agree with it, that Barack Obama will remain the titular head of the Democrat Party. It will not be Hillary. She lost. She's lost twice. Hillary and the Clintons are going to retreat, whether they want to or not. But Obama is going to continue to be the face, and I think the spokesman for the Democrat Party. He's not leaving Washington. He will be constantly on TV, analyzing what Trump is doing, trying to stop if Trump's trying to unwind Obama policies and so forth. As such, the Democrat Party will remain a prisoner to the ego and the legacy, quote unquote, of Barack Obama until such time as somebody surfaces as a potential new nominee that could win the presidency. It's going to be a problem for them because Obama is going to continue to be in denial. None of this will have been his fault. He will not have to have changed anything. It'll be Hillary's problem for losing, the Democrats' problem, and as such, I don't think they're going to have a very easy road at doing whatever reforms they need to reverse their fortunes. What's that? Oh, yeah. If Hillary had won, the transition would have been the greatest of all time, and Chelsea would be portrayed as brilliant. No question about that. But she didn't win. We'll see you tomorrow, folks.